Good afternoon and welcome to the Finance, Budget, and Personnel Committee meeting of Tuesday, March 2nd, 2021. First order of business is you've all read the packet, and does anybody have a conflict of interest that they would like to disclose at this time? There being none, we'll proceed on to citizen comments. Do we have any citizens who wish to make comment? I see none. We'll move on to the consent agenda. We're in the consent agenda are the minutes of the February 16th, 2021 meeting, the monthly position control report, the bills and payroll, and that's it for the motion by Hendler, second by Spiros to approve the consent agenda. If there's no further discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, so carried. Next up is item number 6, request to recommend council approval of budget resolution number 01/2021, transferring $12,132 from the 205 fund balance economic development to the 205 MRI, that's Marshfield residential incentive program. Okay, it's presented by Josh. Josh, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. Back in 2017, the city approved Marshfield Residential Incentive Program, where the Wood County Wastewater Treatment, the EDB, and the council all pooled in money to help contribute towards financial incentives to build new homes. And so this program wrapped up in 2019. Basically, the requirement was you had to fill out an application, submit it with your building permit, and then you'd be eligible if you got all your inspections, you got a certificate of occupancy. You would then be eligible for a partial reimbursement based on the assessed value of your home. So the program was successful. We added over $11 million in new tax base, number of new homes, and pretty simple process. One of the applicants had taken out the MRI application in 2018. They built 2 duplexes and he received a check for that. In 2019, he built 3 more duplexes. And believes that he submitted an application for that, but the city did not have a record of that application at the time. He has since submitted the applications or filled out applications, but after the program had already expired and we said we didn't receive the application. So the program ended in 2019. We fulfilled our obligations, paid all of the incentives for all the people that filled out the applications and did build homes. But in the meantime, we knew this was kind of outstanding. I said, we don't have, we're going to see where we come in. If we have any money left over, maybe we can provide that assistance to you. But because we didn't have that application on file with the building permit, staff couldn't make that decision. He has since appealed to the EDB, asking the EDB to willing to support that MRI request. And he did build 3 duplexes and created almost $600,000 worth of new value, just in the improvement value. So there is a value there. The total request would be, was listed in the packet. I think it was a little over $16,000. And we still had about like $4,200 remaining from the MRI program. So the request for the budget resolution was $12,132 to make up that difference. And so the EDB reviewed the request and said, well, it's unfortunate that, he believes he turned it in. We don't have a record of it. I'm not saying he didn't turn it in, but we did not have a record of it. But with that, the EDB was supportive of providing that funding and is willing to request a budget transfer from their 205 fund. So it's not coming out of the general fund or anything like that. It would be basically coming out of the 205 economic development. So with that, staff would recommend approval of budget resolution 01/2021 in the amount of $12,132.
What's your pleasure?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Thank you, Mr.
Budget
Hendler.
resolution.
Mr. Paschal, thank you for the second.
I'll second it. He moved.
I made the motion.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't see. Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Just out of curiosity, what is the balance of the 205 fund? What is $12,000?
Yeah, it's over $1 million still.
Yeah.
Oh, it's over $1 million. We don't have to get specific.
Well, I don't know the.
Okay. Okay, any other questions? If not, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. And next, Josh, you've got to keep your turn. Going to talk to us about fee schedule.
Sounds good. Yes, thank you. Every November, the city works, well, prior to November, we work with other departments and try to get a fee schedule up to date. That resolution is passed usually November, December, effective January 1. Almost without fail, we have some things to fix early on in the next year just because things were missed or whatever. One of those things was happened to be my miss, but the primary changes are just kind of cleaning up some things. We had the moving permit and the relocation permit that we're just moving to a different section to match what the code says now. We are clarifying that driveway permits are not required when they already take out a 1 and 2 family permit because that's already part of the package. That's already reviewed by engineering. We are adding back the sidewalk grade fee of $10. That was what I took out. I didn't realize engineering wanted to keep that in there. In one of our drafts, it got crossed off, so I had removed it by mistake. And then the other key issue is that every time there's a property transfer, not every time, but most of the time when there's a transfer of property, whether there's a title search or whatnot, we get a property information request. And Deb can attest, we get probably number of these every week, sometimes many a day. And it takes a lot of staff time. We're getting more and more. We've had a lot of transactions this past year with the good interest rates and stuff. But we haven't updated our fees in a long time. I don't think since current staff has been in place here, goes back quite a while. These have always been charged to the people submitting these. Usually it's a title company doing the work, but we've never had them part of the fee schedule. If you recall, back in 2017, we actually adopted the fee schedule for the entire, basically most of the municipal code, and this didn't get incorporated into it, but it's always been a charge that we've had. We did a survey recently. A clerk's office did a survey just to see what other communities were charging of similar size, and we were way undercharging for this service. So we're proposing to actually double the amounts. So the city assessor reviews these. They were charging $10, proposing to charge $20 now. City clerk currently charges $4, proposing to charge $8. City garage, public works, and development services currently charge $2, and now they charge $4. And it's even $4 is kind of laughable for how much work that goes into these. And you see the city assessor number is $20. Most people don't even ask for that. Most of the time they can get that information on the website or through other means. So they don't even really, that's not a fee that we charge very often. So even though that's the biggest charge, it doesn't happen. And more often than not, people don't get these in on time, and then they have a rush charge. So they say, hey, can we get this by tomorrow? And sometimes we have staff that are out, or just it takes more time to get. But to drop everything and do a rush, we figured that would be worth charging more for. So basically, staff is recommending those proposed changes to the 2021 fee schedule. The entire schedule and the red line version is included in your packet. So I'd be happy to answer any questions, but we're recommending approval and going to common council with the resolution.
Have you had a chance to look it over? Okay, what's your pleasure? Motion by Spiro, second by Peschel. Witzel, discussion?
Thank you. What is a sidewalk grade fee?
$10.
And not the amount. What is it? What is it? What are you charging a fee to do?
Oh, I think, and maybe Dan can help me with that. I think what they do is when there's a driveway put in, they go and they make sure that the sidewalk or when the driveway is poured, that it's going to match a future sidewalk. So you have to make sure that the elevation is going to match.
Okay, and then the next question, I realize we may be a little bit behind on our fee schedule changes. It seems a bit shocking to double everything. Not that, a $2 increase is that much, but if a person comes in for a property property information request, are they charged all these fees? I mean, you've got the assessor, the clerk, the garage, the public works, development service. Do they have to pay all those fees, or how does it determine what?
I'll let Deb answer.
Deb would like to answer that for you.
Yes, so all the title companies have our application. They select what information they're looking for. Like Josh said, it's very rare that they ask for assessor information anymore because they can obtain that online. It's more they want to know, is there any outstanding charges on a property? And in return, then the seller usually pays these fees. And even with the survey we did, we're still a little bit on the lower end, but we didn't want to do anything more than double.
Okay,
So,
that answers my questions. Thank you.
Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? So carried.
Thank you.
You get to sit down now, Josh. Next up is review of compensation adjustment options for street department presented by Jen Raku. Jen, it's all yours.
Thank you. So back in early January, I'd come forward to this committee in regard to some adjustments for the Equipment Operator 1 position. You might recall that we looked at both the Equipment Operator 1 and the Equipment Operator 2 roles. And when McGrath did that review, it was found that the Equipment Operator 1s were starting to potentially fall behind the market. I'm sorry, the Equipment Operator 1s were starting to fall behind the market, and the Equipment Operator 2s were holding steady at that time. So we brought forward at that time 2 recommendations. The first one was to take all of the street division staff in pay grade 123, Equipment Operator 1 or similar positions, and move them one step in the pay grade to address the pay potentially falling behind. The second option was to move that pay grade from pay grade 123 to 124. That wasn't recommended based on the fact that that causes some compression in the plan that would have otherwise, that was initially set up specifically to keep a differentiation between those 2 positions. They're currently 2 pay grades apart. This committee had requested that we bring forward more options, so that's what I'm doing tonight. What you'll find in your memo is option 1 and option 2 are the first 2 memos, or the first 2 options that we talked about the first time. In regard to option 3, one of the options that we considered was a flat rate bonus. And what this would do is for the people who are in Equipment Operator 1 or a similar position, instead of moving the pay grade, what we would do is give them a flat rate bonus. And what that would be a $500 bonus on July 1st and a $500 bonus on January 1st of 2022. And what that would do is help to address the lower wages in that particular role. And then what we would do is continue to watch the market for the next 12 to 18 months to see if we're still lagging behind the market. And if that's the case, then we'd need to make some further adjustments in regard to what that pay scale would be. Option 4 was, I believe, recommended by one of our council members as an option, or at least something to look at and consider. That was to create a new pay grade between pay grade 123 and 124. So that was developed as well. It's pay grade 123B. What that does is, as we discussed between pay grades 123 and 125 right now, there's about a 10% differentiation. This would fall between pay grades 123, 124, and kind of split the difference. So it'd be about a 7.5% differentiation between the 2. Now, this is certainly an option. However, keep in mind that that does potentially cause some compression going from that 10% differentiation to the 7.5%. Option 5 is a hiring bonus and doesn't necessarily address the individuals that are in the role now, but would certainly help us in looking forward to recruit people into this position. As you might remember, the reason why we wanted to address this is we've seen a significant number of turnover within the department, and that was actually one of the reasons. So the thought would be is that if we would implement a hiring bonus, it would be a $1,000 hiring bonus at the time of hire. It would be a 2-year commitment. If they would leave after the first year, they would have to repay $500 of that. If they left within the first year, they'd pay the full $1,000. If they left after 1 year but less than 2, they'd repay $500 of that amount. If they stayed for over 2 years, there would be no repayment. And then option 6 is a retention bonus. And again, as we discussed, we've had some turnover within that street division. And so what this would be a $500 bonus that would apply to all individuals within the street division, Equipment Operator 1, Equipment Operator 2s, the mechanics, et cetera. It'd be a $500 bonus in July. We'd continue to, again, monitor just to see where we're at in terms of compensation and whether that EO1 is continually falling behind. And knowing that if we would choose this option, we would still potentially have to go back. However, even with this option, the bonus would be is hopefully that would stop any future turnover, or at least help to prevent some of the future turnover. What you'll find is your packet is a summary in terms of what the cost for each one of these adjustments would be. In regard to recommendations, I would continue to recommend step 1, as we talked about in that last meeting, really because it does address the individuals that are currently in that role. Most of the individuals are at the lower end of that pay scale. So between steps 1 and step 5, this would move them one step. It would allow us to potentially look for additional compensation when we're recruiting if we're continuing to have difficulty with turnover. And then the other thing that you'll see in the notice is I had indicated that the committee might also want to consider implementing a limited retention bonus. Again, we've had, I can think of 5 or 6 people that have turned over within the last 6 months to a year. And so that department has been running short-staffed for a while. So, you know, these are not limited where you only have to choose one option. Based on the funding that we have, you know, again, that's within your purview, but if there is an ability to potentially combine some together, I would recommend the movement of individuals in pay grade 123 and a limited retention bonus for all staff in that department. So certainly your discretion, and I'm happy to take any questions that you have in regard to the options.
Discussion. Mr. Handler.
Thank you.
Mr. Handler, could you speak into your microphone, sir? I can't hear you.
Oh, sorry. Jen, if we were to adopt all 5 at one time, okay, what kind of financial impact would that have?
It would be significant. The intent was never to include all 5. So what we would look at if you were to do, for instance, the retention bonus and the pay grade movement of pay grade 123, allow people in that pay grade to move up a step within the scale. What I did is I set it up so that the numbers that you have in your packet are based upon an implementation at the end of the first quarter of 2021. So that prorated amount based on the remainder of the year from April 1st going forward would be $8,600. And if you would do that with some type of, for instance, the retention bonus, if you were doing the $500 per employee for every employee, that would be $13,000. So you'd be looking at about $21,000 for both of those.
And you feel that if something of this nature has been done, it would create a more favorable environment in the department, and of course, retention and recruiting. Is that your point?
Well, I think 2 things. I think if we were to move the people who are in pay grade 123, who, based on the market study, are tending to lag behind, if we move them up a step, that's going to compensate them a little more competitively. And I think that would help. And then again, if we did that, we may have to look at bringing new individuals in, maybe a little bit higher in that wage scale. So that would certainly help with the recruitment side of things. From the standpoint of a retention bonus, I think that would really help the department in general in terms of recognizing the efforts that the staff have put in and hopefully eliminate any turnover. Now, I'm not saying it has to be $500, but it could be some version of that would be both a recognition of the staff that are currently in the role and then the step increase to ensure that their pay is competitive.
Well, I thank you for the information, but I also think that there's been a lot of people that have left. There's more turnover than I think we should really have in that department. So anything we can do that would help the retention process, because, you lose somebody, you have to retrain somebody, and it goes on and on and on. And I would like to see something that is in place. I don't know how the council, would want to configure that, but I think we need to do that. We need to address it and do it right the first time. Thank you.
Mr. Wetzel.
Thank you. As I'm looking at these 6 options, I guess I have a couple questions about a bunch of them. Option 1 is what you had originally talked about. I guess one question I have with that, as we hire new staff under the current wage schedule, how much flexibility does the management have in placing a new employee into a specific step? Is it automatic, you're in step 1, or is there flexibility? What do we have happening there?
So by policy, we currently have the ability to place between step 1 and step 5.
Okay.
However, what we do when we're looking at where we would place them within that scale is make sure that they don't leapfrog someone else. So maybe somebody that's been in the role for, a year or two, and somebody coming in with the same level of experience isn't going to jump ahead of the other person. So that limits us and really has right now has the group kind of compressed more at that lower end because we have had a number of new individuals.
Okay. And then as I'm looking at option 2, bumping up to 124, or option 4, which is a 123B, you had commented that your concern is that compresses EO1 and EO2, but yet the market is showing that there is a compression. I mean, if our EO1 is below market, so to speak, and I'm using market as a somewhat loose term there, but comparables that you've been able to receive, if we look at EO1 being below and EO2 being on target, which is what I'm understanding you to say, then there would appear to be this compression happening everywhere. And so I don't know why there'd be a fear of a compression here if it's really just matching wages to other competitors. So I'm not really certain on that. The other quick questions I have, option 3 sounds like it's a once and done, or in this case, twice and done. And then that would be that. Option 5 is a once and done. Option 6 is a once and done. And so I don't know that resolves any of the long term. The other issue the other concern I should say I have with option 5 is that I think one of the things that occurs, whether it's street operator or whether it's any other profession, a lot of times that first job is a hard one to get. Once you get, 3 years of experience, then it's really easy to get a different job. This doesn't prevent that. This actually encourages people to come here to get that couple year experience to make themselves more marketable in the job world, and then to jump ship after they've received that bonus for only serving for 2 years. And at the 3rd year, just splitting, which I don't think resolves the issue in the long term. So that I'm really hesitant on that. I guess with all these things said, the concern about the compression, to me, option 2 seems good, but the concern about the compression, I guess I lean toward the option 1, and I'm still not necessarily convinced that the option 6 really is necessary, but maybe others would have an opinion on that.
Sure. I'd be happy to address the compression piece. So, the one part to keep in mind is the compression between, when we're talking about the compression in the pay scale, is really keeping that 10% differentiation between the midpoint of pay grade 123 and the midpoint of pay grade 125. And so that is where it gets compressed. What happens in scenario or option 1, moving people within the pay grades still have that level of differentiation. It just moves them up a step within that pay grade. And so the compression, I guess in a sense is still there because there is a little bit of compression in regard to where the wages are for an EO2 versus an EO1. That does occur to some effect, but the scales in general, that compression isn't automatically built in. So I think that's one significant piece between those two.
Rebecca.
Thank you, Chair. First of all, Jen, I want to commend you because it looks like you put a lot of work into it. And I'm going to go ahead and make a motion that we go with option number 1 and option number 6 as that seems to be the 2 that you're looking at the hardest and think that's what will work out. So I'm going to make the motion that we go ahead and implement option 1 and option 6 with option 6 being as listed in your memo, $500 bonus in July, whatever else.
Is there a second? Second by Mr. Handler. Oh, okay. Discussion? If there's no discussion, we'll accept option 6 and ask them to prepare the proper resolutions and bring them back to us for our next meeting. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? So carried.
Thank you.
Okay, and the next item. I gotta find the magic words here. Yes, adjourn to closed session under Wisconsin statutes, chapter 19.85. Oh, I'm sorry, Ron.
That's all right. It'll just be
You
one.
only had a one-liner.
Oh, it's going to be about 2 lines. Just want to give you some brief updates on debt and a few things going on. So for the utility building debt, we've finished all the closing documents, so that's complete. For the 2021 city debt, we've been going through with Ehlers to figure out what's bondable and what's not. So out of the 2.8 million, about 2.5 million we'll issue bonds for. That's statutorily, we can bond for up to 20 years for those items. Plan on bringing the resolutions forward March 23rd, sell in mid-April, funds to be received towards the end of April. Hopefully we'll get some good interest rates. The remaining 300,000 are items that we can't bond for, that we could take notes out for up to 10 years. And we found that just taking a state trust fund loan is nice and simple logistically. So that's about $300,000. And we started that process today, so that should all be coming. For 2020 actual, we're still working through it. When we get to the end, we have to do a couple things, make some adjustments, then look through all the early invoices in 2021, see which ones go back, and actually our 2020 expenses. So I said that the general fund may have a surplus, may have to hedge that back a little bit and just settle for much, much better than budget, but not a surplus in the general fund after paying back the debt service fund. Software conversions always ongoing. Ing and his guys are great. We're still kind of working through it. April 15th will be field work for the 2020 audit. And then in early April, we'll bring the TID 2 closure resolution and then finish that up by the end of the year. That's all I had. Any questions?
Thank you, Ron, and I apologize for skipping over you. Okay, now, item number 10, adjourn to closed session under Wisconsin statutes, chapter 19.851E, deliberating or negotiating the purchasing of public properties, the investment in public funds, or conducting other specific public business whenever competitive or bargain reasons are involved. And specifically, lease amendment for space at City Hall. I have a first by Mr. Peschel, and a second by Mr. Wetzel to go into closed session. Will you call the roll, please?
Wagner,
Yes.
Peschel,
Yes.
Witzel,
Yes.
Barrows,
Yes?
Hendler.
Yes.